Starting at number 10, we have Jodhpur's Mysteries. On December 18th, 2012, a sudden, deafening sound came out of nowhere, crashing into the sky. It sounded like a massive explosion. And when people checked it out, it was found that there was no airplane or anything nearby at that time. So what was that big sound? The weird part about this is that the incident happened and the rest of October actually, there were other similar booms and explosions in the sky that were heard, but nothing was seen. These strange sounds were heard in almost every country, from United Kingdom to the United States. And sometimes the sound was accompanied by green lights. Okay, so where do these sounds come from? Were they connected? Was it some kind of strange new weapon or maybe alien activity? Maybe we'll never know. Moving on to number 9, we have the City of Twins. This is very interesting. So in the Guinness Book of World Records, Kodinhi, also known as God's own country of twins, is listed 4th for having the most twins overall. Now in India, 9 twins are born for every 1,000 babies compared to an average of 4 worldwide. However, out of 1,000 births in this enigmatic village in Kerala, 45 twins are born. The estimated 2,000 families living in the village currently have about 400 pairs of twins, which is quite surprising in and of itself. What's the cause that is producing so many twins? Next up, at number 8, we have the cursed village of Kuldhara. The village is situated in the Rajasthan region of India, and the reason why it was abandoned was, according to a legend, the evil eyes of Salim Singh, the prime minister of the state, fell on the daughter of the village head, and he desired to marry her by force. So he threatened the village with grave consequences if they did not bend to his wishes. Instead of submitting to the order though, they had a council, and the people of the 85 villages there, they left their ancestral homes and they completely vanished. But this was not all. Before leaving, they put a curse on Kuldhara that no one would ever be able to settle in their village thereafter. And to this day, the village remains barren. Even if someone tries to live there, they are chased away by paranormal activities. The next mystery to look at is Ladakh's magnetic hole. Located at a distance of 30 kilometers from Leh city on the Leh-Kargil highway, it is a small stretch of road that defies the phenomenon of gravity. It is famously known as the magnetic hill of Ladakh, and the reason why is because the hill actually pulls stationary vehicles upwards. Yeah, villagers residing in the magnetic hills of Ladakh, they believe that there once existed a road that led people all the way to heaven, and those who deserved it, they were drawn directly to the path. Next up, the immortals of the Himalayas. Gayanganj, also known as the City of Immortal Beings, is situated in a village in the Himalayas. The exact location though is unknown, and it has never been found by anyone. Supposedly anyways. Buddhists, particularly those from Tibet and India, they assert that Gayanganj is not merely a location, but rather it's a higher realm. They claim that only wise people, yogis, and other deserving souls can actually find Gayanganj, and those who choose to stay there, well, they permanently gain immortality. Even though it may have only existed in common folklore, some well-known spiritual leaders have actually claimed to have visited it, making the legend even more popular. The mystery at number 5 leads us to the Bhootbili. An unknown creature known as the Bhootbili terrorized some regions of India, and it is a strange cryptid that resembles a cross between a dog, a cat, and a mongoose. The Bhootbili has been reported to have jumped up in a tree at least once to get away from people who are trying to catch it, because it's believed that it is capable of making very long jumps. It is said to be enormous and vicious, and yes, it's smaller than a lion but bigger than a hyena in size. Now and then, residents of the area have reported seeing the Bhootbili consuming up to 45 pigeons and a goat at any given time. Let's take a look at this UFO base at number 4. The Kongka La Pass, situated in the Himalayas, is also called No Man's Land. The area has a reputation for UFO sightings. It is believed that the area around the Kongka La Pass is a base of UFO landings on Earth and not just a small landing site, because apparently witnesses from both China and India saw UFOs land there. Just like Area 51 over in the United States is a supposed UFO base, well, Kongka La Pass is the UFO base in India, supposedly. Number 3 leads us to the mystery of Shanti Devi. The woman who allegedly remembered her previous life details said that around 9 years ago she passed away after 10 days of giving birth to a baby boy. And in her past life, she was married to somebody named Kedar Nath. Now, there was a local man with the exact same name that was found who actually confirmed the whole story. The meeting between Shanti Devi and Kedar Nath was then arranged. Along with Kedar Nath, Lujgi, Shanti Devi's previous name, as well as son and his wife, traveled with him. However, Kedar Nath pretended to be his older brother, but Shanti Devi and her son Navneet Lal instantly recognized him. That is creepy and mind-blowing. Moving on to number 2, the 9 unknown men. According to reports, Ashoka the Great founded the 9 unknown men, one of the oldest and most significant secret societies more than 2,000 years ago in India. According to the legend, Emperor Ashoka held the view that knowledge is power, and the key to maintaining that power was to gather, cultivate, and use knowledge in a way that could be put to great use. But that could also be very disastrous if it fell into the hands of the wrong person. So to create a society known as the 9 unknown men, he called together 9 of the brightest minds in India at the time from various fields and disciplines. So is this secret society still in operation? Who are these 9 men? What did they discuss? What sort of secret knowledge do they know about that maybe we don't know? Now, number 1 leads us to the mysteries of the Taj Mahal. Like any other memorial, the Taj Mahal has a lot of mysterious doors and rooms. There are a number of these rooms in the Taj Mahal that haven't been used since Shah Jahan's time, and he was the 5th emperor of the Mughal Empire. According to research, these rooms have revealed evidence that the tomb was a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. Additionally, it is claimed that further investigations into the existence of the Taj Mahal is prohibited by Indian law. Now, the book, The Truth of the Taj Mahal, has also been restricted by the administration. Furthermore, the Indian government forbids anyone from entering these mysterious rooms out of concerns for widespread problems. And that leaves people kind of scratching their heads, wondering what is inside these mysterious rooms. So let's jump in now at number 10. We have angelic encounters. Many books have been written and countless stories have been told of people who believe they have had encounters with angels. Sometimes they are described as beings of light. Other times they're described as being beautiful human beings, while others they're just described as being regular looking humans. They almost always appear in a time of need, whether it's some sort of major life intervention or if somebody needs a little bit of encouragement, that angel might show up in whatever form it chooses to take on. But were they actually angels though? Kind of similar to number 10 is number 9, Marian apparitions. For centuries, visions of Mary, the mother of Jesus, have been reported in different parts of the world. Claims of apparitions continue nowadays, and in the year 1968, a Marian apparition was even allegedly televised in the country of Egypt. Mary usually asks people to pray and occasionally makes prophecies. Of course, you know, there's a very famous occurrence happening in Fatima, Portugal, where they said Mary had made a prophecy there. But skeptics say that these visions and these appearances of Mary are hallucinations or maybe even mass hysteria. And there's even others that say that this is actually comparable to when people see UFOs and have alien encounters. Mystery number 8 is the Ark of the Covenant. The New Testament book of Exodus describes in detail this box that's overlaid with gold, and it was something that the ancient Israelites built from God's instructions to contain the tablets that hold the 10 Commandments. But not only that, the Israelites carried it wherever they went, and even into battles, because it was said to have incredible powers. The ark was to represent the throne of God, and some think that the ark was literally a transmitter of God's power, and in turn made it a very powerful weapon. It is believed by many researchers that the ark is actually still in existence today, but it's hidden and protected somewhere in the world. Number 7 brings us to a fascinating mystery. Incorruptibles. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, incorruptibles are bodies of people, usually saints or other people that are revered, that miraculously do not decay, even after decades or even centuries. The bodies often lie in public view in churches and shrines, and saints and popes and even some companions of the Islamic prophet Muhammad are among those whose bodies are believed to have been preserved. There was one case of the Blessed Margaret of Mottola, and it was recorded in an article called Saints Preserve Us. And the article says, and I quote, "She died in 1330, but in 1558 her remains had to be transferred because her coffin was rotting away. Witnesses say the clothes have rotted, but Margaret's body hadn't." Stigmata comes in at number 6. This is one of the most controversial mysteries in this episode. When a person is somehow inflicted with the wounds of crucifixion, like Jesus had in their palms usually, or sometimes in their feet, that is known as stigmata. This phenomenon dates back to at least Saint Francis of Assisi and has been claimed by numerous people since then. Many unofficial accounts of stigmatas have been proven to be frauds though, where people were found out to have just put the wounds in their bodies themselves. Weeping and bleeding icons is another big mystery. Statues and paintings and other likenesses of Jesus and Mary, as well as other saints that appear to be weeping and sometimes even weeping blood, are commonly reported around the world. There's often multiple claims of this in a given year, and one occurrence was of a painting of Jesus hanging in the Bethlehem Church of the Nativity above the spot where Christ is said to have been born. It's seen to be weeping red tears. Others include the Weeping Madonna in Toronto, Canada, and many, many others. Skeptics, though, suspect fraud in all of these cases. The healing power of prayer comes up next. There is definitely a big ongoing debate about the healing power of prayer. You'll see articles and videos of experiments being carried out that show that prayer played a vital role in healing somebody. And then the next month, another source would say that, well, actually prayer didn't have any effect on healing somebody at all, and here's why. But either way, the question still stands: is prayer truly a miracle? Or is there some kind of psychic or quantum effect that humans do not fully understand yet that happens when somebody praise? Moving on to number 3, a very popular one, the Shroud of Turin. No matter how much scientific testing is done to the Shroud of Turin, the results are never satisfying for anyone. Well, that is anyone that believes that the Shroud of Turin is what they say it is. Those who want to believe that it is the burial cloth of Jesus will definitely not be proven wrong despite carbon dating and other tests. The shroud is a 14-foot strip of linen on which is faintly imprinted the likeness of a man that seems to bear the wounds of crucifixion. And there are people that believe that this is in fact an image of Jesus whose likeness was miraculously imprinted on the cloth, possibly at the time of his resurrection. Radiocarbon dating in 1988 concluded that the shroud dates back only to somewhere between 1260 and 1390 AD, so that's well after the time of Jesus. One theory is that it's actually a creation of Leonardo da Vinci. Either way, those who believe this is in fact a face covering for Jesus question how accurate radiocarbon dating is anyways. Let's look at the Star of Bethlehem at number 2. While billions of people around the world accept New Testament Gospels as being fact, religious scholars and scientists, they often seek a scientific basis for many of the events that are described in the New Testament. And one common occurrence referred to in the New Testament is the Star of Bethlehem. According to the Gospel of Matthew, there were some magi who arrived in Jerusalem, and they were in search for the newborn King of the Jews, saying that they had followed a moving star to get there. Researchers say that the star could have been something else, like a comet or the planet Jupiter or a supernova or even a UFO. But whatever was seen in the sky that night still remains a topic of debate. Was it actually a star or was it something else? We end this episode off at number 1. Let's take a look at prophecies. Various religions and their foundational texts, they're filled with prophecies that believers say have been or will eventually be proven true. Most religions across the board would agree that a prophet is a person who receives a divine message and speaks to other human beings on behalf of a deity. Now, whether the gift of prophecy continues in our present world, it's definitely still a subject of theological debate. But in recent years, self-described prophets, they have multiplied in the world. Many claim to be hearing directly from God, only to be exposed as frauds when what they said was to happen didn't actually happen, and others would admit that they have lied. Yet still, there are those who believe that God can and has in fact spoken to people through various means, and that all true prophecies and prophets will eventually be proven to be 100% true.
And number 10, where is Eden? You know, the Garden of Eden mentioned with Adam and Eve. You know, they led a beautiful life in the Garden of Eden until they ruined their blessings and introduced sin into the world. But where exactly is Eden anyways? No one's really sure. In the Bible, it is stated that a river went out from Eden to water the garden. From there, it divided and became the source of 4 rivers. And the name of the first river is Pishon, which flows through the entire land of Havilah, where there is gold. Now, the name of the second is Gihon, which flows through the entire land of Cush. Now, the name of the third one is Tigris, which runs east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates, as it's mentioned in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verses 10 to 14. But no one knows where the first humans experienced Eden and precisely where the garden is actually located. 2 of the 4 rivers mentioned in the book, Tigris and Euphrates, they exist and we know where they are today, but the other 2 haven't 100% been confirmed. Guesses are that Eden is in the Middle East based on the river Tigris and the river Euphrates, but no one knows 100% for sure. Now, moving on to number 9, did dinosaurs exist as well as other creatures? Okay, so modern science has found proof for the existence of dinosaurs, but the Bible doesn't talk about them as modern education does. In the Bible, 2 creatures are mentioned that are monstrous in size and have supernatural characteristics, unlike the animals we know today. Could this be in reference to dinosaurs or maybe some other type of creature? One of the creatures is Behemoth, that's described as a beast to be feared and which can only be killed by God's sword. Now, the other is a multi-headed beast called Leviathan. And in the Old Testament, Leviathan appears in the book of Psalms chapter 74 verses 14 as a multi-headed sea serpent that is killed by God and given as food to the Hebrews in the wilderness. So as you and I both know, this planet, we see some pretty interesting and strange looking creatures from time to time. But the ones described in the Bible, they seem to have otherworldly origins. Moving on to number 8, how did the giants come to an end? So giants have been mentioned in the Bible quite a few times. In the book of Genesis 6 verse 4, it said, the Nephilim were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in onto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same were the mighty men that were of old, men of renown. Now, there are a few questions that this passage brings up. Why do people not grow to be giants now? Especially it says that giants lived in the world after that. And what specific race of people was it talking about? Now, there's many different interpretations that exist out there about the Nephilim, who they are, where they're from, if they exist or not. But not much is really found about them in the Bible specifically. Now from there, let's look to number 7, evolution. Evolution, the change in the characteristics of a species over several generations, is a very common believed concept today. But in the Bible, there is just no mention of evolution. It's mentioned that God created all life from man to animals alike, but there is no description of the evolutionary process, and it's biblical mystery. Was there evolution or not? Now for number 6, what are atoms? Just like there's no specific mention of evolution in the Bible, there's also no mention of atoms that are the building blocks of matter. The Bible has left the discovery of many of these smaller units of matter up to modern science and education, and there's no specific reference to them in the Bible at all. There, however, is a passage in the New Testament in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 3, which says, "Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear." This passage points to the idea that there are unseen forces behind everything that we see. So does it mean that there's something beyond atoms that work as a framework of everything that we see? And what else has science not discovered yet? Halfway into number 5, let's talk about alien life. This is a very popular subject. Now, number 6 just alluded to this when it mentioned worlds, plural for world, but it doesn't mention life on those worlds. Today, scientists are spending a whole lot of money and resources on finding traces of alien life and communicating with them. Although up until now, there have been some UFO reports and conspiracy theories, there is actually no proof, no concrete proof that life exists beyond our planet. But in the Bible, outside of the mention of angels living in heaven, there's no specific mention about aliens or life beyond our planet that live on other planets out there. If there is life out there, will we ever know? The mystery at number 4 is the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant is a chest that is supposed to have had the tablets engraved with the 10 Commandments. Now, whether it was destroyed or captured or hidden, nobody really knows for sure. One of the most famous claims about the Ark of the Covenant and where it is that before the Babylonians completely ransacked Jerusalem, it had found its way all the way to Ethiopia, where it still is today in a town of Axum in the St. Mary of Zion Cathedral. Number 3, this mystery involves where the Holy Grail is. Where is it actually? Now, if you're not familiar with the term, the Holy Grail is the chalice that Jesus used at the Last Supper to drink from. He served wine in it and gave it to his disciples and all of that, and it really holds a lot of value for Christians. They believe that it was buried in England by Jesus's uncle or taken from the Holy Land by the Knights Templar. But in the Bible, there is actually no hint about the location of this chalice. According to BBC, they have stated more than 200 places in Europe alone that claim they are in possession of the one true Holy Grail. But the Bible has no answer of its location, nor does it mention if it really exists or not. Now, moving on to number 2, another popular subject having to do with the end of the world. There's a whole lot of detail about the apocalypse in the Bible, specifically in the last book, Revelation. Now, it says that the world will end and everything in it will be laid bare, and the last day will occur after a period called the millennium. Now, over the course, more than 80 documentaries containing the predictions of how the world will end, they've actually shed some light on the Christian scriptures, but there's actually no specific date or time of the world ending mentioned in the Bible. It's still a big mystery. And finally, at number 1, how did people live so long in the Bible? In the Bible, we find mentions of people living for hundreds of years. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image and called his name Seth. And that's found in the book of Genesis chapter 5 verses 3. Now, modern technology has been able to help people to live upwards of 80 to 90 years. And some people, they live to 100 years and beyond that, but not too far beyond 100 years. But so far, we have not seen people live for hundreds of years. Now, in the past eras, people tracked time differently. So is that the answer as to why people live so long? If you tracked a shorter year, you can say somebody is 600, but to to us, they could be 30 years old, let's say. But is that the explanation, or is there more to this? Either way, we don't have a concrete, solid answer as to why people live so long in the Bible. Starting off at number 10, the Ark of the Covenant's location. The Ark of the Covenant was a lavishly decorated box with tablets engraved with the 10 Commandments. It was said to possess incredible powers and had the ability to zap the lives of anyone who touched it or tried to look inside of it. Now, one theory is that the Ark was relocated to Egypt. It then allegedly made its way to Aksum, Ethiopia, and that's where it is today. So you would say that, well, the mystery has been solved, right? Well, not exactly, because while the Smithsonian claims that the monastery in Aksum, which has the Ark inside of it, but no one is actually allowed to go inside and see it for themselves. It's believed that there is just one person who can see it, and everyone has to just take their word for it. The moment that this person, who is a virgin monk, takes this oath, he then enters into the Ark's compound and is not allowed to leave until he passes away. His only purpose is to worship. So after he passes away, another person takes his position, so this way no one knows what's actually in there. The next mystery is of the lost tribes of Israel. The ancient Israelites were divided into 12 tribes. However, there are modern people all over the world who claim to be direct descendants of some of these lost tribes. According to the Bible Odyssey, Richard Brothers wrote in 1794 that England was the home of the lost tribes and that he was their prophet. Even though he was actually writing this from an insane asylum, still a lot of people, they gravitated to this idea. And also, according to PBS, the Japanese as a whole, as well as groups in China and Crimea and Afghanistan and the Caucasus, as well as Kenya and Zimbabwe in Africa, are also thought to be a lost tribe. There is also a group of Jews in India, and they have some evidence that they are in fact a lost tribe. There was a genetic study that was published in the year 2016, and it discovered that they share some genes with Jews, but they don't share any with any other Indians. Moving on to number 8, where is the Holy Grail? Even though it actually defies some sort of logic to try and save a cup that was used by Jesus at the last Passover meal, well, people always have been fascinated with the idea of the Holy Grail. It became a popular theme in medieval literature, and legend has it that the Holy Grail was either buried in England by Jesus' uncle or taken from the Holy Land by the Knights Templar. BBC reports show that there are more than 200 places in just Europe alone that claim that they have possession of the Holy Grail. And also, as recently as the year 2014, there was a new cup that was declared to be the Holy Grail. So which one is the real Holy Grail? I guess this is probably one of those things that no one will ever really know. Number 7, this mystery is, where is the lost Bible? Or I should say the lost books of the Bible. Now, it wasn't until around 400 AD that the Bible was codified. There were many books considered holy or important by both Jews and Christians before that, and some of them did not make the final cut to be included in the Bible. Now, we do have many of these books today, but others were never published and are now completely lost. We only know about them because there are certain mentions in various different books of the Bible. Like around 22 lost books are estimated to be out there somewhere, or maybe lost forever. And throughout the Old Testament especially, there would be certain parts that say, and of course you can find this information in such and such a book, but there is no longer such and such a book. According to the Bible, these lost books contain histories of various different kings and prophets and genealogies and songs and things like that. The mystery at number 6 is about the Pharaoh in the book of Exodus. In the book of Exodus, Moses requests that the Pharaoh let his people go from Egypt, but of course Pharaoh refuses. Terrible plagues then fall on the Egyptians, and eventually the Pharaoh gives up and says, okay, take your people, go. But Pharaoh, of course, he changes his mind and he attempts to chase the Israelites and persuade them to come back. And he then forces Moses to, of course, perform that famous miracle of parting the Red Sea so that the Israelites can get to the other side. However, the name of this Pharaoh is not mentioned in the Bible at all. There are no Egyptian records of this event also. And there are different movies that were made about the Pharaoh, and often he's referred to as Ramesses II or Ramses the Great, but no one can say if this is 100% true or not. In at the number 5 spot, we have a talking donkey. This takes us to the book of Numbers, chapter 22, verses 21 to 39. A man by the name of Balaam, he takes a ride on his donkey, and the donkey, he notices an angel blocking the path ahead, and 3 times this happens, and he's beaten by Balaam for refusing to continue, but the donkey's scared to go. The Bible does say that after the 3rd time, God opened the donkey's mouth, and God gave the donkey the ability to then speak. But the Bible, however, doesn't make any mention of this power being taken away from the donkey. And the story of Balaam and his donkey raises numerous questions, none of which are fully answered. Was a donkey, for example, a rational, sentient being who simply couldn't really express itself beforehand? Or was Balaam given the ability to understand the donkey and what the donkey's noises meant? Similar to that movie, Dr. Dolittle, where he can understand animals. So could the donkey speak? Was Balaam given the ability to hear the animal? Did both happen? Did the ability of the donkey to talk leave it? Still a mystery. Number 4 leads us to the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah. Las Vegas, of course, may call itself the city of sins, but back in the day, the 2 cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were the most sinful. They were so bad that, according to the Bible, God had to completely destroy them. As a matter of fact, the tale of these cities mentioned in the Old Testament are also mentioned in the Quran. And the main sins of these cities was the sin of homosexuality. But we don't know where on earth that these 2 cities actually were located in, or whatever happened to the people there. According to Britannica.com, Sodom and Gomorrah are possibly located under or adjacent to the shallow waters south of Al-Lisan, which is a former peninsula in the central part of the Dead Sea in Israel. So the Bible records say that all the people were completely destroyed and gone, but did people live there after that? And where exactly were these cities located? The next mystery is, can the witches raise the dead? According to Leviticus 19:31, witches will defile people, and there's other verses that emphasize that they are evil, they're controlled by Satan and all of that. So yes, according to the Bible, witches exist and they have powers, but the Bible warns to stay away from them. Except for a time when Saul, the king of Israel, who was supposed to be a holy king, he actually went to see a witch, and she completely summoned a dead spirit of the great Hebrew prophet Samuel. Some say that it was a demon disguising himself as a prophet Samuel, or was it? The mystery at number 2 involves Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog are the 2 great nations of earth that Satan will one day rally to his cause, leading to the day of judgment, according to the book of Revelation. Although Revelation 1:1 says that the prophecies in this book will happen very, very soon, well, it seems like people have been waiting a long time and they're not sure that if this is going to happen in the future or has it happened already. Either way, one of the most popular legends associated with Gog and Magog is that of Alexander's Gate. It's said to have been built by Alexander the Great to imprison these uncivilized and barbaric people of Gog and Magog until the end of time. And that's when this wall will be broken down and they will wreak havoc on Earth. So is this something that's going to happen in the future? Or not? Is it happening? Who are the people of Gog and Magog? Where is Gog and Magog? So many mysteries around that. The mystery in at the number 1 spot is the Nephilim. Did they die in the flood? The common belief is that the Nephilim were created by the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men, according to Genesis chapter 6. And the King James Version of the Bible calls them giants. God destroys the entire earth in a flood, drowning everyone that isn't in Noah's ark. but the Bible in later books includes a report on nearby land that some of the Israelites visited where the Nephilim still live. And they have grown so large that the Israelites appear to them as grasshoppers. So it is still unknown if there are Nephilim still roaming the world in the form of giants. And if they were, well, weren't they killed in the flood?